And howdy, everybody. I guess we're live. Mostly, anyway. And back with OBS. Had a few minor issues, but nothing serious, just surprising. So, anyway, let's say hello to everybody. Let's see if I know who got the cookie, too. It looks like Schuylkill River Valley John got the enchanted cookie. Hey, congratulations, John. You got the cookie. Good to see you here. Hope you enjoy your stay. And it looks like Hot Dog Pilot Andy got the half cookie. Good to see you here, Andy. Enjoy that half cookie. And of course, Gerald got crumbs. So glad you're here, Gerald, even if you only got crumbs. And who else do we have? We have Dundas Junction Model Railroad. James, how you doing? Good to see you here. He says, my wife made me cookies, so I don't need this cookie. Well, goody for you. Well, at least you won't go hungry, right? And let's see, we have Floyd Robbins. Good to see you, Floyd. Hope you enjoy your stay here. Tom Grassy, good to see you. Anfield Road Layout in the Loft. Lee, how's it going? Good to see you here. Let's see, who else? Maybe scroll down here, pretty much that. Chuck Schreiber. Hey, Chuck, how's it going? Good to see you here, man. And who else? A lot of scrolling here. Hey, Joe Rader, Black Rock Central Railroad. Joe, good to see you here. I got something to show you in a few minutes. You'll be happy. And it looks like that's everybody. So, here we are. May 22nd, 2025. We've got another, 10 days left of the month? Thereabouts. And, I haven't done as much as I'd like to have gotten done in here, but I am starting a little bit, so we'll see how it goes. And I don't know if you guys have watched my latest short I posted yesterday. I got a little bit more done down at that end over there, track-wise anyway. It's time-consuming, especially since I'm not really 100% sure what I want to actually do, but I have come up with some ideas, and I have two areas that I want to explore with. I'm going to do a bunny ranch, and not the kind you're thinking about. Actually, bunnies. I can print little tiny bunnies, and we're going to make a little like a bunny ranch, literally, where they raise rabbits for sale, eat them or play with them or whatever. So I'm going to do that up top on one area. That'll be a small area. Nothing really terribly big. I'm not quite sure where I'm going to put it yet. Yeah, probably down on the far end. And then next to that, I'm going to have a chicken ranch. So we'll be raising chickens as well. Now I figured I'm going to do this because, and some of this was my wife's idea, because nobody's done it. I mean, who's got a bunny ranch or a chicken ranch? To my knowledge, no one. So I want to do something different. Figured that would be the way to go. Hey, Tom Strange and Things. Good to see you here, Tom. I'm just talking about my plans for the second level. I'm going to do a bunny ranch and a chicken ranch. And not the kind with girls, but, actual animals. You guys have your minds in the gutter. There'll be small areas, though. Not very big because, the animals are small. But I figured it'd be fun to do and kind of cool. And let's see who else popped in here. Darren Hamill. Hey, Darren. How's it going? Good to see you here, man. So, I mean, that's a good start anyway for something different, because at first I was kicking around maybe doing a cornfield maybe even a wheat field, but you know, some of you guys have already done that. You know, Dave Thurber, Morning Brew, Crooked Dave, he's got the cornfield. I know because I printed the corn for him. Tom Grassi has corn. He also has wheat. So I'm thinking, well, I don't want to copy anybody, you know. I want to do something a little different. That's why I figured on the animals, why not? Now, I still may do something else. My wife suggested maybe a nursery. Or a plant nursery, not for kids. So we may even kick that around. Who knows? And that, of course, will be a little bit larger because I could make a bunch of plants. You know, anything from palm trees, the Florida oaks, smaller plants. Do a lot of that stuff. We'll see on that one. That I'm not sure about yet, but we'll see how that goes. I'd still like to put some more industry up there, at least on the left side anyway. So I'm going to have to do some thinking. Like I said, anybody has suggestions, you know, shoot me an email or talk about it tonight, bring it up in the chat, and, you know, I'll take it into consideration. Now keep in mind, I'm looking for different stuff. And I don't want to do something everybody else is doing because, you know, there's no originality in that. So, oh, Tom says, Jim, I also have automated chickens. Yeah, I believe you do. I saw that. I actually saw the automated chickens. And I thought about possibly getting it. I don't know yet. I might not. But even if I just have static chickens, that's fine. I know you're heavy into, you know, automated stuff, which is cool. I am too, to a point, but I don't want to get too crazy either, so we'll see. I know there's even a train car, I think. It wasn't after that made it. Somebody made it. Maybe it was, I'm not sure now, but somebody makes a train because it's a box car, or actually it's a, like a cattle car, you know, if one with the boards open on it. And they got chickens in there that are automated. And it also has a soundboard in it. The chickens move around in there. They clock. It's kind of cool, but like that thing is like $130, and I don't know if I would spend that much money. It's pretty cool though, something to think about. So I will have to wait and see on that, but like I said, I'd like to come up with some different industries though. I mean, everything's kind of been done. You've got paper mills, you've got steel mills, you've got coke plants, you've got was it pickle factories or pickle barrel factories? I need something different, you know. And like I said, I could probably print up anything I need, so it's not like I have to go out and buy something somewhere. I just need the idea. So if you guys come up with anything, let me know. There you go. Lisa's put a pig farm on the layout. That's a possibility too. It's not something you usually see. It's not unheard of, but it's not common. So we may go with that too. Maybe we'll have, you know, the bunnies, the rabbits, and the pigs all next to each other, but in separate, you know, separate stalls. So, well, we'll see. I'll look at that. That's a good idea, though. Well, I kind of have the glass and jar factory already. The yellow building. I don't know if you can see it from here or not. No, you really can't. But right about there is Debbie's, my wife's, Debbie's jar and glass manufacturing plant. So she makes glasses, and I guess, I don't know if she's a glass blower or what. I don't know how they make them, but so I already got that, but that's a good idea. Thank you for that. Anything else? Like I said, and of course, you know, I've got Anthony from Georgia Sunbelt. I got Anthony's canoes. So he makes canoes. That's next to Debbie's glass and jar manufacturing. Okay, I forgot about that. Yeah, there you go. That's all right, John. No biggie, right? Um, so yeah, just something different. I mean, I know there's so much stuff out there that's not common. I'm just not sure what it is, you know. A paint factory, that's not a bad idea. It's not uncommon, but that'd be kind of cool. We could go with that. Tom says laundry, slaughterhouse, auto manufacturing plant. Yeah, parts manufacturer, that would work. Yeah, a lot of good ideas out there. The slaughterhouse, well, I guess that would kind of go with, well, actually I could do that because I got the cattle ranch on the first level, and I could put the slaughterhouse up on the second level where they would transport the cattle up there to kill them, right? That's not a bad idea. Chuck says the pig farm. Yeah, we already think about that one. John came up with that idea. I think John did. Yeah, we could go with that too. Like I said, no, that was your idea. No, that was Lee's idea. Put pig farm on the layout. So yeah, I could put that up there along with the bunnies and the chickens as separate. You know, like I said, they could be smaller, but separate factories or whatever, industries, stores, whatever. James says, John, I started my career at Dominion Glass. So that's cool. Hey, Sparky, what's going on? You can't hear me? Oh, mic's turned up all the way. I could bring it up over here on the board a little bit more. That better? Hopefully. Maybe I should bring the mic a little closer to me too. You know, I got this newer version of OBS. It's a little bit different than what I had before. This is version 31.0.3. And I had version 29 in there, I think. Or maybe version 30, I don't remember. But that's why, if you'll notice, when I started streaming, you saw a brief picture of me like I am now before the intro came in. Because normally when I go start streaming, it would bring up a separate box and you're like, are you sure? And I would hit yes and it would start streaming and I'd be prepared. Well, when I pushed the start streaming button, it didn't give me the box anymore. It just started streaming. I go, oh shit. So it's probably going to do the same thing when I stop the stream too. I guess they didn't figure that redundancy wasn't necessary, so they did away with it. And like I said, I've got everything turned up volume-wise. I don't know what else I can do to improve it. Is it better now? Can you hear me better? There you go. Tom Grassy says, Sparky, clean out your ears. I can hear Jim just fine, clear as a bell. Okay, that's good. And of course, you know, one of the problems is too, is I had issues with the microphone as well. Not the microphone itself, but for some reason, it wasn't being found on OBS. OBS will identify all the microphones, because like all my cameras have mics in them. I just blanked them out because they suck. And I used the big one here. And it wouldn't see this one. And I had to fuck around with it, and finally it saw it. I don't know what happened, what I actually did differently, but, you know, it's weird. So it's just one of those things. As Sparky said, I was at physio today, and the doctor was watching one of your videos. He was visiting my place, and he checked out Hot Dog Andy Pay. That's cool. Always good to see a doctor that's interested in trains. Okay, yes, it is better. Well, thank you. That's good. Good to know. Good to hear. Tom says, I can hear you if I crank up the volume over 60 on my computer. Normal is about 25 to 30. Like I said, I've got everything turned up on my end. The volume is turned up on the mic. The gain is turned up on it. And I could probably increase the gain a little bit. Let me see here. Let's see, advanced. Yeah, advanced. Yeah, let me increase the gain a little bit. That make any difference at all? Probably not. Maybe it did. I don't know. He says better for now, moving closer to the mic. Alright, that's cool. Put the mic closer to your mouth. Well, normally I have it about where you can't even see it on the screen. And like I said, maybe the gain's just not up enough. I could bring it up some more. Let's see. 104. Alright, how about now? Is that any better? It should be. I'm running at 110% on the mic gain. I don't know about that, Joe. It could have something to do with this version of OBS, because I'm finding there's a little bit of things. Windows sound settings. Yeah, well, I'll have to double check that later, but I've got everything in OBS turned up, and I also had problems with the sound on the computer too. When I redid everything, it wouldn't give me the right drivers for the sound card. I have Realtek sound driver, and it goes through my Vizio TV monitor. You know, there's speakers, and it wouldn't see that either. And I had to really hunt around for a good driver to make it work. And I said, I don't know what's going on, why I'm having so many issues with everything. It's fine now. Stop messing with it. Okay, that's cool. Hey, Dave BNSF. Yeah. Dave BNSFN scale. Good to see you here. I'm telling you, I'm all tongue twisted today too. Tom says, Jim, you sound just fine in the beginning, and now they need to check their end. Okay, yeah, it could be. Yeah, if you guys' volume is way down, I mean, I don't know what you consider normal, but it may not be normal for this particular channel. So who knows? It's weird stuff. So anyway, I've been working on a little project for Joe Rader. He asked me if I could print these last week. And what they are is they're slag in there. They sit on top of the Athearn motor assembly, I guess, and you put your your DCC decoder card onto it. So it's a base for your DCC decoder card. They asked me to make them 4 of them, and actually I made 8. I'll keep 4 for myself, and I'll send him the 4 that he wants. If anybody else wants any, let me know, because I got 4 extras here. I wanted to run out the little bit of filament I had left on that spool, so I just went ahead and print them until I ran out of filament. Yeah, that makes sense too, Tom. Windows settings for your mic will affect the volume in OBS even if you have it cranked up all the way. Yeah, that's possible. If you can hear everybody else, you'd be psychic. Hey, Floyd Robbins, how's it going, Floyd? Good to see you here. So, like I said, I've had a lot of bugs to work out. I've had nothing but problems. I formatted my computer, started from scratch. At first, Windows 10 didn't want to load. I don't know why. I had to do some workarounds to get it to actually load up. Then I had driver issues where drivers that were technically correct were not working, so I had to find alternate drivers for certain things. And my wife asked me to print something out for her that she emailed to me. And I went to print it out and nothing happened. I go, wait a minute. I didn't put the printer software and drivers back in yet. I have an Epson EcoTank 2750, 2720. So I go to the Epson site and, they ask you what operating system, Windows 10, 64-bit. Click OK. Nothing. They don't have the software or the drivers for Windows 10 anymore. All right, this sucks. So I go backward. I said, all right, I'll try Windows 11. Hit Windows 11. Nope, nothing for that either. This is bullshit. So I said, all right, well, let me go backward. So I found the software and the drivers for Windows 8.1. I loaded them up, and it works fine. But I don't know what happened to the Windows 10 stuff. Why they deleted it, or it's a fluke on their website or whatever. I couldn't find software for Windows 10 anywhere on the internet. And when I bought that, it didn't come with a disc. A lot of them will come with a DVD or CD disc with the software on it. This didn't come with one. Matter of fact, a lot of the new stuff doesn't come with one. They'll tell you to go on the internet and go to the site and download it directly from the site, which is fine unless they don't have it anymore. So that's pretty fucked up. But I did get it, and I was able to print out her stuff. And I think I have everything straightened out now. I mean, all my software is in there and working. I use Camtasia. I even had an issue with that. Apparently I have a pirated copy of Windows 10. It's minus all the spyware. Well, that's when I got loaded up, and I went to load up Camtasia. It says, well, it won't work on that version, because I think that was 20H2 or something like that, the actual version of Windows 10. It says you got to have 22H2 or 24H2. So I had to go online and get the upgrade, which kind of blows the whole pirated copy out, because now I got some of the spyware in there, in order to run Camtasia. Well, Camtasia is my editing program for when I do the Wise Guy videos. Gotta have it. Plus, I paid crazy money for it anyway, so, I'm not going to let it go. It's just, I don't understand what the hell's going on with these machines. And I'm not the only one having problems. Dave Thurber's haven't been having problems with his computer. I think Dwight had some problems with his. I don't know what the hell's going on. I think they're screwing with it. Now, I can't go to Windows 11 because out of 3 computers I have, 2 desktops and 1 laptop, and none of them are compatible with Windows 11. Now, the one in the house, I have the Ryzen chip in there. I think it's a Ryzen 7. It's an 8-core. Windows 11 doesn't support an 8-core CPU. I mean, that's a fairly new CPU that I paid crazy money for, because I wanted to build a decent computer for a change instead of a last generation one, which I used to do to save money. So I won't run in that with that CPU. Well, I'm not changing out the CPU just to run Windows 11. Fuck them. This one here has a Ryzen 4 in it, which is a six layer CPU, and it would work. It's compatible, except it's missing a component that would be built into, I think, into the motherboard somewhere. Has nothing to do with the CPU. I don't have it. I'd have to change my motherboard. Fuck that, I ain't doing that either. Matter of fact, this is the same motherboard that I have in the other one, the one in the house, because they're good motherboards, and they weren't cheap either. So like I said, I went with a 6-core for this because I didn't figure I needed 8. You know, if I'd had the money, I would have went with a 10-core, even a 12-core. But now you're getting into some serious money, you know. I think the 8-core in the house, I think I paid close to $400 for that CPU. This one here was just under $200 for the 6-core. I have no regrets, but they're just not compatible with Windows 11. Now I have a Lenovo laptop, as I use as a monitor here. I bought this back in 2010. Okay, brand new. It has Windows 10 in it. Of course, I put my pirated copy in there. And the only problem is it only has 8 mega RAM. Or no, it has 4 mega RAM, excuse me. It needs 8 to run 11. So if I want to run 11 into that, I'd have to get a new RAM card to upgrade that machine. And to me, it's just not worth it because of its age. So Windows 11 is not going to happen. Personally, I'm going to wait for Windows 12 anyway, which is supposed to come out, I think, in a year or two. Because Windows 11 kind of reminds me of Windows. Remember Windows 8? It sucked. Everybody had Windows 7. They were happy. And then they said, no, you got to have 8. So some people got 8. It sucked. And then when he finally came out with 10, they completely missed 9. I don't know what the hell happened to 9. They went to Windows 10, and Windows 10, like, it worked. So we all stuck with it. It seems like we're doing the same thing again. You know, they come up with Windows 11 is garbage. And I'm going to wait for the Windows 12, which I understand will not be as picky about the machine as Windows 11 is. And I hope that's the case, because I'm not going to replace... I mean, why should I buy a new computer? You know, CPU and motherboard, when there's nothing wrong with mine and they're not that old. You know, the one in the house, I think, is 6 years old, and this one here is just right around 5 years old. I built both of them. And I'm not going to go ahead and, you know, and I spent good money on them, and why would I shit can perfectly good machines just to go to Windows 11, which supposedly sucks anyway, depending upon who you talk to. Now, some guys, they love it. Other guys think it sucks. I'm more inclined to believe it's going to suck. Let's see. Did I miss anything here? I get off. That was kind of a rant, wasn't it? Even though it wasn't. Could have been though, Andy. Yeah, it was kind of a rant. Yeah, there you go. Chuck says, not an official one. But close enough to call it, right? The official one must be a doozy. I wouldn't call India for anything. Fuck them people. I can't understand them, for one. You know, I mean, some of them are really smart and all. It's not like they're dumb, but if you can't understand what the hell they're saying, you know, be like going to China and trying to speak to someone who doesn't speak English. You know, even though the Indians, they do actually speak English, but the accents are so heavy you can't understand what the fuck they're talking about. So I don't like dealing with them too much. Joe says my laptop keeps telling me to upgrade to Windows 11 when I go to, they want me to pay for it. Screw that. Yeah. Well, as I said, I was getting the same thing until I actually tried to run it. Because I figured, well, it can't be that bad. And if I didn't like it, I would just, you know, revert back to 10. But like I said, none of my machines would run it. They must have heard that and wrote a note somewhere They don't even bother me with 11 anymore, you know, because they know it's not going to run on any of my machines. And I wouldn't pay for it either, nor would I buy a new computer. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And Tom says, Jim, I searched for an afterburner motor for the SW1000 engine, could not. Damn it. Could not find one, so I just ordered a new SW1000 with DCC and sound, ditch lights, etc. The other one was used most likely ready to burn out. Yeah, it could have been. Now, I watched that video right before I went live tonight, and I think I asked you whether you could repair the motor or not. Sometimes if the dirty brushes or the commutator gets mucked up, you can clean them up, and I mean they're difficult to work on because they're so small, but sometimes you can actually bring them back to life. I've done it in the past. Does that take a pancake motor or a what they call it, the round motor, the barrel motors, can motor? If it takes a can motor, you could probably get something that'll work. If it's a pancake motor, that might be a little tougher. Just can't get a motor from China and make it fit. Okay. Well, somebody's got to have something that'll work, I would think, but that'd be something you could do as a side deal, you know, down the road. I don't have any extra motors, or I'd give you one. So I've got two switchers. One is, they were both donated to me, and I fixed the one and put DCC sound and sound in it. Or no sound, just DCC. It's okay, but it's a Bachmann, and it's the twin motor setup. I mean, I'm treating it more like a static model now, but I'm probably gonna get like you said, one of the SW1000s down the road, even if it's just DC, and I'll convert it over. James said I fixed the real motor as a trade. Okay. See, it's like I said, I don't know. I'm not. It's probably a can motor, and they got all different sizes and lengths and all that. You'd have to. It's probably a dual shaft, I would imagine. So you'll have to fool around with it and figure it out. Joe says the hard part, Tom, is finding one with the right size. Yeah, that makes sense. Of course, well, if the shaft size is all right, you could swap out the flywheels if the shafts are the same size. If they're not, well, then you're kind of screwed. Unless, of course, the shaft is bigger than the flywheel, flywheel's inner diameter, and you could drill it out and get a snug fit. I mean, there's always a way, I'm sure. But that'll give you something to think about if you're bored one day, you got nothing to do. You rip into that and see what you can do with it. I got to get cracking too. I've got two locomotives that I got to repair. One's the scale trains. I was changing out the sound card, the decoder. I got a Tsunami 2 in it, and I didn't know about the buddy board, or I would have bought one, and that would have made things a lot easier. So I'm actually, it's operational except for the lighting. I got to get the lighting sorted out. Once that's done, that loco is ready to go. The motor functions are all fine in it. They work the way they're supposed to. I just got to hook up all the lighting. Once again, I haven't had time to fool with it. Been sitting up over there on that second shelf. Way over there somewhere. And I'll get to it at some point one day. No big hurry. And I got the other one that, I burned up a truck on, and I got to replace both trucks on there, which I'm not going to use the scale trains truck because they suck. and I found an Athearn truck that with some minor modification I can make work on it. A pair of them are $50. I just haven't had the time or the money to fool with it just yet, but I will at some point in the future. We'll see how that goes, but there's always something to do. I mean, I got so much work to do here, it isn't funny, And one of the biggest problem is I just haven't really had a lot of time to spend over here. I got a life, fortunately, I guess. And some things to do in the house, some other things going on. I told you about my Ford Ranger giving me some issues the other week ago. I put the scanner on it today. It's showing there were 3 fault codes on it. One was a transmission issue, which would have had nothing to do with the engine running. And I already knew about that. It was nothing serious. Every now and then it doesn't want to, the lockup converter won't engage. Not often. And if that happens, you pull over, you shut the engine off, restart it, and it works just fine. So I don't know what the hell is. Probably one of the controllers for that. I don't think it's a physical problem in the transmission. It's unlikely anyway. The other problem is it showed code up for both oxygen sensors, which they're probably both bad. I mean, it's really not a conclusive test, but it did throw a code on both the left and the right one. Now keep in mind that truck has 246,000 miles on it. Nothing has been changed. So I may just go ahead and invest in a couple O2 sensors and a fuel filter, because I'm sure it needs to be done too, and change them out. And I was talking to my neighbor about it, and I explained to him what happened, and for some reason he'd think it might have vapor locked too, which is possible. It's unlikely, but possibly with the bad O2 sensor, that might have not necessarily caused the vapor lock, but simulated the conditions for one. Because like I said, once the thing cooled off, the next day, I got in there, fired right up, and ran fine. I cleared the codes that were thrown on the O2s and the transmission, and that cleaned up the idle a little bit too, because it was surging a bit. And once again, an O2 sensor could cause that, but so can a mass airflow sensor, so could a bad throttle position sensor, idle air control sensor. Any one of those sensors could be causing the problem and not necessarily be bad enough to actually ping the computer to let it know it's a problem. And this is one of the deals when you're working on these computerized cars. Even if you have that meter, that scanner, it'll tell you something's wrong, but that's not necessarily the case. You really have to look back through it and say, okay, is it that, or is it something that's, so let's say you have a bad throttle position sensor. So if you're not getting the right signal to the computer to throw the right amount of fuel in and throttle response, it's going to affect the O2s. So it may show up as a bad O2 sensor when really it could be a bad throttle position sensor. And this is one of the things I learned early on when I started messing with these computerized cars, that the scanner doesn't always give you a clear picture of what's going on, which is why we always kept a few spare parts that we knew were good or even new, put them in temporarily to see if that actually fixed the problem, because sometimes it didn't, and it was something else that threw those particular parts out of whack to trigger the code. So it's something I'll have to fool with. But like I said, based on the mileage, it's probably due for O2 sensors. Now it's fuel injected. They don't have a throttle body on an O3. It's got injectors in it, 6 of them, and I thought, like I say, it even had a bad injector, but the fact that it wouldn't throttle up leads me to believe that it was either I thought maybe it was either the throttle position sensor, idle air control solenoid, or the mass airflow sensor. Because all three of those could cause that problem. But if the O2s were out, or something else might have been out, maybe it just got too hot. It was very hot that day. You know, I was idling the truck for probably a good 15, 20 minutes in the parking lot just for the air conditioning. So it's very possible it might have overheated something, and, you know, it actually probably could have caused, you know, vapor lock. Who the hell knows? Well, no, they're not supposed to, Joe, but, you know, I learned a long time ago when it comes to cars, never say never. I've seen things happen that were not supposed to, and yet they did. It was rare, but, you know, no, vapor lock was never one of them. I never experienced vapor lock in a fuel-injected car. This would be the first, if that were the case. And I honestly don't think it is. But something got hot and malfunctioned. You know, like I said, it could have been, the O2s might have been so far out of whack that, you know, from the heat and the age. It doesn't seem likely, though. Usually if an O2 goes bad, it'll throw the light, and you'll suffer a little gas mileage. You generally don't see performance issues on a bad O2 sensor. I mean, I knew a lot of guys that were running, you know, you'd start the car in the morning, it'd be fine. 15 miles down the road, check engine light would come on. That was the O2 malfunctioning. You know, we'd put the scanner on it, showed clearly bad O2s. The car ran fine, just the fucking light was on. You know, and the gas mileage dropped off just a tiny bit. But, alright, Lee, thanks a lot, man. We'll see you next time, and who knows, maybe we'll talk more about trains. We're going to talk some trains today, later maybe. We'll see. Anyway, have a good weekend. We'll see you next time. Thanks for popping in. So, like I said, it could have been anything, you know. It might even had the fuel pump relay might have gotten hot and wasn't working properly. I mean, the thing is, everything in that truck, for the most part, except for the starter, the water pump, and the fan clutch that I replaced, is all original in there. At 246,000 miles. Pretty fucking amazing if you think about it, but, you know. So, I mean, things are going to go bad. It's inevitable, you know. And it doesn't really bother me that much, but it sucks. Chuck says, Jim, would you think since the mid-70s with all this pollution, parts, and electronics, we would have the cleanest air and 100 plus mile per... Well, first off, when they started doing the pollution controls in the 70s, that is 73 Pontiac Le Mans, 350 V8, put out 165 horse. They detuned them so bad. It was supposed to clean up the air, but it actually caused more problems than it solved. We used to run our cars, you know, at the... I can't say the word, but, you know, the N-word nationals. You know, the back road somewhere. We used to have drag races, and cops came out there one day, you know, and I thought we're all busted. He said, no, we brought the EPA down with us. We'll let you guys race, but the condition is we get to put the sniffer on all your vehicles. Sure, go ahead, you know. Well, it turned out every one of our cars, which were built, you know, pushing 400, 500, 600 horse, were beating EPA clean air standards for like 2030, you know. And this was back in the 80s, you know. And they're scratching their heads, and I'm going, well, you idiots. The cars are running at their peak performance. They're going to burn cleaner because they're burning more completely. When you detune a car, it's not running at its peak performance. You're going to have a lot of unburnt gas, probably more hydrocarbons, all other crap coming out your exhaust that you wouldn't have if you're burning every drop, every molecule of that gasoline efficiently, you know. Well, yeah, in theory, but there's no theory about it. The problem is, you can't have Granny driving a 500 horsepower race car, or your grandfather probably either, they'd kill themselves in it. So they have to build cars that are suitable for the average Joe, which are not race cars because, they'd kill themselves probably. So they're not going to get really clean air. Now, we had no pollution stuff on our engines. We took all that crap off. No catalytic converters, no O2 sensor, all gone. Carbureted engines. Had cams in them, pop-up pistons, all the good stuff. Head work done, balanced. So they were running at their peak efficiency. And the mileage wasn't that bad on them either. If you didn't put your foot in it, like my Pontiac, I was at 350, running somewhere around 475 horse. I guesstimate, I'm not 100% sure. Never had it dynoed. But based on what it did, it had to be somewhere in that neighborhood. I got about 23 to 24 miles per gallon on the highway. If I kept my, if I wasn't, trying to do 100 mile an hour, 140, whatever. But doing the speed limit, 23, 24 miles per gallon, about average. In the city, about 18, maybe 19 tops. So, you were getting decent mileage, cleaner air, but they were performance engines. Now, I just remember they used to do the DUI things. They'd be at a parking lot, usually at the schools, and they'd let these, 19-year-olds anyway, because I think they were 21-year-olds. No, maybe it was 19. I think drinking age was 18 at the time. But, they'd give them a shot of whiskey and let them drive the course in the parking lot. And, then they'd test them, and they go, well, you blew a 0.9 or 1.2 or whatever, you're legally drunk. And there's one guy out there, he was fucking, he blew a high number, I don't remember what it was, but he drove perfectly. He drove better than most sober guys did, and they're scratching their heads trying to figure it out. And it's like, dude, you can't put a specific number on impairment. You can average it, but there's always going to be somebody that it's not going to apply to. I knew guys that drove better drunk than they did sober. I'm not kidding. If they had got pulled over and they had to do the breathalyzer, they were going to jail, for DUI. Even though they were actually driving perfectly fine for somebody who's drunk. So, but this is the problem. They don't understand when these things happen. So it's kind of weird, I guess, in that respect, but it is what it is. How do we get into that subject anyway? I may remember now. So anyway, so getting back to, so I worked on that, so now I have a little more trust in driving the truck. But I still want to let it sit and idle on a hot day, which here it's been, the feel-like temperature has been 100, 101, even up to 102 at the peak of the day. The supposed real temperature is like 97. But it feels like 102. Well, if it fucking feels like 102, it must be 102. I mean, they pull that shit all the time, but it don't mean anything. So, I'll let it sit out there and idle for maybe a half an hour. If it doesn't screw up again, I'll consider it a fluke. Or if it does, maybe I can figure out what exactly is going on. I'll have the scanner on it while that's going on. And maybe it'll throw even a temporary code to give me an idea what's screwing up. We'll see. So I got that going on, and I'm still working on I told you last week I bought another, well, my wife did actually, bought a mini split for her hobby room. Well, I've got the condenser mounted, I've got the head unit mounted inside. All I've got to do is attach the coolant lines, hook up the electric, vacuum it down, and we're done. But it's been so damn hot outside that I don't want to fool with it. So, but that's all I got left to do, and as soon as I get off my ass and do it, that'll be finished. And then I only have one more to do, which I don't know when that's going to happen. I want to get an 18,000 BTU to put toward the back of the house to cool the living room, dining room, kitchen, and hopefully the laundry room and office area. Unfortunately, the house is designed kind of weird. I mean, the bedrooms are on each end of the house. The living room and dining room are in the center of the house. And so you can't really, and I have vaulted ceilings, so you can't really hang the head unit in the living room unless I want it to be way the fuck up there. And I can't get in the attic, so that would be problematic. So the best place to do is I could put it in the back. It's almost like a foyer. I don't know what you call it when it's in the back of the house. But if we're in the front, it'd be a foyer, a little area where you walk into. I could put it on the back wall of the foyer, and it should blow through and cool the living room. And like I said, that's why I went with an 18,000. Because I've got a 12,000 in our bedroom, which is about, I think it's about 800 square foot. It's big, it's huge. And the second bedroom is only about maybe 350 square foot. And I put a 9,000 BTU in that one. So both units are bigger than they need to be. Yeah, that's about the size of it too, James. It's terrible. Yeah, I guess you can call it a mud room. Yeah, that would work. That's a fairly new term that we have here in this country, but I've heard it before. Hey, Dave Nitch, how you doing? Good to see you here. The problem is I cannot take the heat. If I start getting a little bit warm, a little hot, I just my strength is gone. I just want to go find a cold place and sleep. It's bad. I just cannot take the heat. Probably because of my age, I'm sure. But it is what it is. So I wanted to have this. I thought I was going to have the thing run by this past Tuesday. Because like I said, I had the condenser bolted down. The head unit I put in, that was last week. And I thought, yeah, I should have this, all wired up and ready to go by Tuesday at the latest. Well, here we are Thursday, still ain't done. But it got real hot down here. I mean, right now it's 82 degrees outside, but the feel like temperature's about 96, 97. Now, of course, it's cooling down. Now, earlier it was probably 100, maybe 101 for the feel like temperature. Yesterday it actually got up to 102, feels like. It's fucking brutal. And we're not even in the actual summer yet. It's going to be bad this year, I have a feeling. So my wife says, well, the weather says there's going to be a cold front starting Friday. And I'm going, what the fuck are they talking about? Well, it's going to be like 87. At the peak of the day. I guess technically that's a cold front, but not really. For me, a cold front is like 70 and lower. And now it gets down to 70 at night, but during the day it's still, like you said, 84, 85. It's still pretty damn hot. So it's not going to be fun at all. But it is what it is, So I got that ahead of me. My wife, when she came back, she took most of her stuff up with her because, her daughter had a big U-Haul. They actually came down to get her motorcycle that I've been storing forever. And I thought, that's an awful big U-Haul for a motorcycle. I had no idea they were both leaving, her and my mother-in-law. And so she took most of her stuff up with her. So, of course, she didn't want to leave it behind, so she had it shipped down here, which cost her a small fortune. My mother-in-law did the same thing. And now she's trying to sort through it. My house is a disaster area. I mean, you can't really help it. I mean, she came down, it was, he said 97 boxes full of stuff. Small, medium, and large boxes, and large boxes were pretty big. And a couple of lockers, too. So it's like, okay. So she's been working her ass off, trying to get things sorted and unboxed and put in its proper place. And, of course, some of it she's having a hard time finding a proper place for. My house is not small, but it's not a mansion either, you know, so there's limited storage areas, you know, closets, space, and all that. So she's having a tough time with that, but I'm sure she'll get through with it eventually. But in the meantime, it ain't looking good, you know. And we got enough boxes we could probably house about 97 bums, homeless people, you know. Well, maybe not that many, but there's a shitload of cardboard, man. I mean, you could probably build a homeless condo with the thing, right? But and that's another problem too, you know. We only get once a week trash pickup here. I have, well, realistically, our house, we have 2 cans. I got the big regular trash can and a slightly smaller recycling can, which they don't recycle here anymore. They won't come out and say it, but they don't really care what you put in that recycle bin, you know. So we put regular trash in there. We don't give a fuck. And of course, my mother-in-law has a smaller regular trash can that I had to purchase. But, you know, that's hers. We can't really touch that. So it's going to take a while to get rid of all this crap we got, you know. Empty boxes, and I got some firewood here I got to get rid of. It's just, I got so much of it and no place to put it. I'm just going to have to toss it. I mean, it's not like good solid pieces, more like sticks. You know, it's more like, what do you call it, kindling. I don't really need it. It's way more than I could use. You know, appreciate the guy that, you know, Kurt brought it over, gave it to me, donated it. I used some of it, but then, and we're not going to use any more till next winter. You know, we damn sure ain't going to be using it during the summer. So, it's a little rough. So I was going to load up a lot of shit in the truck and just take it down to the city dump. You know. Dave says, lucky you, 54 here today. Struggles to hit 65 eastern Wisconsin. Yeah, Wisconsin, Michigan, all them areas are getting hit really fucking hard. I feel bad for you guys, but, you know. Plus, you've had a long winter to begin with. That's where my wife was up in Michigan. And the 3 months she was there was pretty much, you know, 0 and some sub-zero temps. I mean, it was bad. By the time it started warming up, it was time for her to come back here. And now that she's here, it's actually warmed up a little bit up there. I think my stepdaughter said it was 48 one night. So, you know, it's and he says 60 during the day down to 42 at night. Yeah, that's cool. And I mean that in an actual sense. Cool as in cold. James says he had rain all day. We finally got a little bit of rain today. I didn't think it would rain. Wife says, it's going to rain. I said, no, it's not. Oh, yes, it is. I said, no, it's not. Well, I was wrong. It rained. Not much and not for long, but it still rained. So, you know. Tom says, same here in New Jersey, James. And Dave says, 2.5 days here, James. Hey, Low Country Railroad, how you doing? Yeah, it has been a long time, man. Good to see you, though. Tom says it's 52 here in New Jersey. That's kind of cool. As in, you know, cold. Although I would kill for 52 degrees right now. I mean, thank God I put that mini split in our bedroom because we're running it all night, every night, you know. It's like, last night it was up at 80 degrees at midnight outside. And the inside house just swelters. I mean, it's bad, you know. I mean, we said we have air conditioning, at least in 2 rooms. We have a portable air conditioner, a little roll-around thing that we have set up in the living room, but it's an old one and it's not very efficient anymore, but it does help, you know. The one in the bedroom, no man, it'll ice you out like right now. So, yeah, it's been crazy, man. Gerald says it's been 97 here now in Austin. Yeah, that's worse than us right now, believe it or not. That's 82 here. Uh, Joe says off and on rain all day here. Yeah, the weather's been nuts. I don't know what the hell is going on. I still think that they're messing with it. You know, something's going on to where nothing makes sense anymore. You know, the seasons are out. They said they're still getting winter weather here, practically summer. When's officially summer? June 7th or something like that? You shouldn't be getting snow in June. And yet there are places that are getting it. They're having these crazy storms out here in the east. Fortunately above Florida, Tennessee, North and South Carolina, I think parts of Georgia, probably Kentucky. A lot of tornadoes. Some scary shit, man. You know, but like I said, I don't believe in climate change, that horse shit, but I do believe that I think at some point somebody's manipulating the weather. You know, can it be done? Yes, it can. And that's not conspiracy theory, that's an absolute fact. We've been controlling the weather to some degree since the late 1800s. Before they had airplanes, they were seeding clouds with, you know, balloons to make it rain, and they had to stop doing it because the chemicals they used to make it rain would bleed down, and it was killing the livestock. And of course, you wouldn't dare drink the water because it'd probably kill people too. It was poisoning the land. So the government said, nah, we got to quit doing this shit. So they actually banned it. I think right around 1901, somewhere around there. And it seems like we're doing it again. Remember, the United Arabs, UAE, United Arabs Emirates, they just ceded their area, and they got massive flooding. Yeah, they really fucked up in a place where they hardly get any rain at all, and they were literally flooded out. So I mean, when you screw around with that stuff, you really don't know what the outcome's going to be and how it's actually going to negatively affect other areas. And that's what I'm saying. They may be able to do this somewhere, but we don't know what's going to happen elsewhere. All right, Joe. I'll send you an invoice for that stuff in a couple of days. I got to find a box and get shipping and all that, and I'll invoice you, and then we can solve that. And but thanks for popping in, and we'll see you later. Low Country said severe storms here in North Georgia too. Yeah, I know. You guys have been getting hit hard too. It's bad. It's a little scary too because, you know, traditionally you didn't get stuff like that. All of a sudden now, of course, they're blaming, like I said, oh, it's climate change. Keep driving your cars. It's just going to get worse. Bullshit. We've been driving cars for over 125 years, and it's just now popping up. Yeah, bullshit. You know. So I'm not buying that whatsoever. But Dave says no summer here this year. Definitely man-made weather. Being manipulated for sure. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I don't doubt it whatsoever. You know, and they shouldn't be allowed to do it because you don't know how it's going to affect everything in the big picture. You know, they may wind up destroying this whole area with wicked weather. Maybe that's their intent. Who the hell knows? I know they're trying to convince us that they're trying to reduce global warming. That's what we have air conditioners for. I don't give a fuck how hot it gets out there. Turn your air on. You know. I mean, if you live out in, where is it, Las Vegas? I think it's Las Vegas. They regularly see 120 degrees out there. Yeah, it's low humidity or no humidity. But you'll still die, you know, if you went out in it for too long without being able to hydrate yourself. So they have air conditioners all over the place. If the rest of the weather gets like that, it's going to be cyclic anyway. You know, remember just a few years ago, Al Gore, you know, that idiot. Oh, we're looking at another ice age coming up. Global cooling, you know. And then when that actually didn't happen, they went to global warming, and they had to shut down 2 summits for global warming because they had ice storms. You can't make this shit up, you know? So, it's ridiculous. Floyd said Texas is getting the storm today. Yeah, you guys are getting hit pretty hard, too. Well, it does, low country, and the problem is, like I said, I don't know if it's purposeful. It could be. Or if they're trying to fix something in one place, it's going to have the opposite effect in another place, you know? That's what I'm saying. Fooling with the weather is a dangerous game. It's like screwing with Mother Nature, you know? You could do something here, but it may actually affect something differently here, you know? Like I said, all of a sudden now we've got, earthquakes on the East Coast. I mean, they're not unheard of, but they're very unusual. But now they're saying, oh, we can get some big ones here. And they're getting some really big ones out west, which, not surprising either. But, and, I've been reading some of this stuff, and this one guy, he's a whistleblower. Take it for what it's worth. Said he was working down in Antarctica where they have a HARP-like weapon. And if you don't know what HARP is, you can look it up, but it's a device that can superheat the ionosphere around the Earth, which would affect weather. And it was originally designed, supposedly, to jam radio signals that would bounce off of the ionosphere. It was supposed to jam them. But then they found out that they can actually control weather with it. So they built a similar device in Antarctica. They have one in Alaska. That was the first HARP weapon. They have a couple others in other countries, but the biggest one so far, or something like it, is in Antarctica, and they're getting ready to expand it. And they claim that they can produce earthquakes, make volcanoes blow, bring about hurricanes, blizzards, droughts, flooding. They can do anything they want. Are they full of shit? I don't know. I like to think they are, but what if they're not? And my question is, why are we even allowing this shit, Where the fuck is our government in all this crap? Send a couple F-35s over there and bomb the shit out of the place, and that'll take care of whatever tech they got down there. Anybody that messes with the weather should be guilty of a war crime or crimes against humanity. That's simple. Okay, so I'm on the east side of the state. We just had a 2.8 earthquake here I think I remember reading about that. That's crazy, Hey, Ray Bertelson, how you doing? Good to see you here. Yeah, it's ridiculous, Well, yeah, Andy, that's another thing too. These idiots. We got too much CO2 in the atmosphere. CO2 is a good thing. We exhale CO2. The plants inhale CO2 and convert it to oxygen. Something they call photosynthesis, which apparently our scientists forgot about somehow. So technically, the more CO2 in the atmosphere you have, and the more plants you have, the more oxygen you'll produce. But see, the problem with oxygen is, the more you get, like not too much, but if you get more than normal, it increases your longevity and your intelligence. Neither of which the government actually wants from the people. They want us to die early and be stupid, so they get away with their crap. But it doesn't make sense. Like, so we have a way to eliminate CO2. Okay, then if you actually did that, how do you know it won't kill off the entire population of the planet, including the animals? If you breathe, you inhale oxygen, you exhale CO2. I don't get it, And I've talked to some people and they're like, well, no, that's not true. Yeah, it is. We learned it in school, And the plants take CO2, convert it into oxygen, which we need to live. It's called photosynthesis. You tell me that's a lie too? Well, I don't know. I'll have to look into it. Well, are you people stupid or what? You know? And I don't think, really, I think that they're trying to convince people that everything we believed to be true at one time was all lies. Now, there's some things that were lies, like the moon landing was a lie, okay? 9/11 was a lie. It was an inside job. The Murrah building, that was an inside job as well. You know. I mean, all these things that they lied about are obvious, and then the other things that, like I said, we were taught in school. I believe them to be true. Why would it change now? I don't know. It's like I said, it's fucked up, but that's kind of the way things are going, though. So, and they do that shit with everything too. They think you're stupid, or that you're forgetful, or they'll try and convince you that, I went to a store once. This is kind of off topic, but it's not. It was Kmart, back before they kind of went under. And they used to sell some auto parts in Kmart, like hoses and belts. And I needed a fan belt for my car, and I went to Walmart, or Kmart rather. And I'm looking around, I couldn't find it. So I finally said, "Where'd you guys move the fan belts to?" He goes, "We don't carry fan belts." "Yeah, you did." No, we've never had them. I said, "I bought one here about 4 months ago. I still have the receipt. Do I need to get home and bring it back and then shove it up your ass or what?" "Oh, no, sir, you're mistaken. You've never bought a fan belt here because we've never sold them." I said, "Well, you're a lying piece of shit, or you're just stupid, because you did sell them, along with hoses and spark plugs." "Oh, no, we don't carry that stuff. You have to go to the parts store for that." I used to have rotors turned here in the mechanic shop at, the Walmart, Kmart, I don't like to say Walmart, the Kmart service garage. Well, yeah, they might have done that, but that's all they don't have parts. Well, how do they fix cars without parts? Yeah. I said, "Dude, I'm going to go home. I'm going to get that receipt. I'm going to come back here, show it to you, and then I'm going to go ahead and shove it right up your ass. Because you know what the fuck you're talking about." "Well, sir, you can't take that tone with me." I said, "Yes, I can. I'm the customer, and I'm right this time. And you're full of shit, If you stop carrying it, that's fine. Just tell them, 'Well, sir, we don't carry it anymore.' Don't try and convince me you never had it when I've got a fucking receipt to prove that I bought one at this store." He got pissed off and walked away, so I let it go at that. And this is what they do, this shit with everything nowadays. "Oh, no, sir, you're mistaken. We never said that," or "No, you don't know what you're talking about, sir. You're mistaken." No, I'm not. All right? The one thing I pride myself on is having an excellent memory, I mean, I might forget a word every now and then, but important shit I always remember. No farting either. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, technically it would be, Ray, a symbiotic relationship, I guess. But it's the way it's always been. I mean, they've been teaching this in school for probably a couple of thousand years. I don't know, And he goes, "So I'm producing carbon dioxide and methane. Anything else?" "Yep, hot air." There you go. Well, actually, yeah, we get methane too, and of course they're blaming cow farts for that, Now, cows have 3 stomachs, because, they eat grass, and I guess that's the only way they can actually process it or digest it, but regardless, so they fart a lot, but then we fart a lot too. Now, how come cow farts are a problem, but human farts aren't? Or how about dog farts? You ever have a dog that farted? Some of them are pretty nasty, man. I had one like that, clear fucking room. How is that not a problem? Just cow farts. So if we all stop eating meat, get rid of the cows, we'll solve global warming. Even though every animal that breathes on land farts. Elephants, lions, tigers, deer. If it's a warm-blooded mammal, it's going to fart. And they think we don't know that, right? That's Jim's ass is moving now. Someone stuck a broomstick up it. Yeah, it's possible. Lost broom syndrome. Well, it's true, though. That's what I'm saying. And I always catch these things. I'm not brilliant or anything. I mean, maybe I am. I don't know. But, I pay attention. I'm going, wait a minute. You don't know what you're talking about because how could a cow fart be a problem, but not a human fart or a dog fart or a deer fart, an elephant fart? I'm sure an elephant fart's more potent than a fucking cow fart. You would think just on the sheer size of the animal, But no, it's not a problem. Only cows. And you know why? Because we fucking eat cows, and they have a problem with that. Welcome to the canned bean symposium. Now we can do some ass spinning. There you go. I'm not gonna touch that one. But it's true, man. Come on, It's not just, it's everything. The hell did I say? There was something I was reading the other day. It was yesterday, and I'm going, well, that doesn't make sense. It was like a direct contradiction in both of the sentences that they were using for the same topic. Well, which is it? It can't be both. I don't remember what the topic was now, but there's a lot of problem I have with all the space crap, What the hell was it? Oh, yeah, no, it was airplanes. I was reading an article on aircraft, commercial aircraft, the ones you fly on. And they were saying that the air that's inside the pressurized cabin, that your breathable air, is actually very not good for you, okay? And they said that they actually use, now when these planes fly at 30 to 35,000 feet, there's no oxygen up there, okay? So we're told. Now remember this. So I always thought aircraft had, like oxygen on board, like tanks of it, and they'd refill them after every flight. Find out they don't do that at all. That they actually have, what the hell do they call it? Can't remember the term now, but a part of the engine which produces air before the combustion is where they get the oxygen from. Oh, it's called bleed air. So this bleed air that comes off the engine gets pumped into the passenger cabin that you're breathing. But except for one problem. There's no oxygen outside. So you can pump all the air you want. It's not oxygenated. So how are you breathing with it? And then I'm reading this thing and I'm going, well, that doesn't even make sense. And they said that, I guess in the beginning, they actually used compressed oxygen inside the cabins. That's what people breathe. They made sure they had enough for everybody in the plane for the length of time that they needed. And it was expensive, so they did away with it. So they said the biggest problem now is that this bleed air, which is coming off the jet engine, which I don't see how it can produce oxygen, also has contaminants in it, like the oil that uses to lubricate the blade, the turbines, and PFEs and all kinds of crap that gets in the air, and then they're saying that this is what causes jet lag. That's actually not from the time differential. It's from the bad air that you're breathing in the cabin. I'm going, okay, but there's still the problem is, how are you getting oxygen at 30,000 feet off the engine when there's supposedly no oxygen up that high? So either they're lying about no oxygen, or they're lying about how they're getting the oxygen. As I'm saying, it's a direct contradiction. Because, you're told, if the door falls off the plane at 30,000 feet, you have rapid decompression. You also have no oxygen. The masks drop out of the ceiling. You're supposed to put them on, and that actually is regular oxygen that you breathe until they can get low enough to where there's oxygen in the air that they're flying at, which I think it's anything below 20,000, something like that. You get oxygen in the air. It just doesn't make sense, you know. So they're just not fucking telling the truth about something. That chat went to the ass. It could have. Anti-beef, feed them insects. Well, that too. Trains are getting ass kicked. Well, and there's been a lot of train accidents, and of course, same with airplane accidents too. I mean, you know, the problem is maintenance. The companies that are running these things, whether it be trains, planes, I don't care what it is, they're not maintaining them to save money. So they fuck up, they cause crashes, cause death and destruction. But they save money, and that's all that matters, you know. I wonder if that's true. Well, but they had suits on, and supposedly it would have been contained in the suit, which would have sucked. You'd have to breathe your own fart for quite a while, because who knows how long it would take for it to dissipate. Hey, Ken Amos Jr., how you doing, man? Good to see you here. You walked in on a strange topic. Now, James is trying to put some siding up or something here, and I guess the rain's hampered it. Yeah, well, it would, you know. That's another problem we have here, too. Now, I don't know if these are everywhere, but we didn't have them in Naples. They're yellow flies. They're about the size of a housefly. But they're yellow, and they have, like, yellowish spotted wings. They're see-through, sort of. Well, they bite you. I mean, literally bite. You know, they land on you. They secrete some sort of like an anesthetic that numbs the area that you can't even feel them land on you, and you don't know they're there until they actually start digging into your flesh, and it fucking hurts. And of course, they die easy. You smack them and they're done. But whatever poison they leave in you stays there for a while. It's not deadly or anything, but you're going to be itching for a while, you know. Worse than a mosquito. And we've got a ton of them things around here about this time of the year. And that's another problem, because they come out, like when it's most comfortable for you to be outside, they know where you're there, and they know where your blood is. I mean, they go right for the veins, and they always pick places that are hard for you to reach. Mark is live at 8. Okay, that's cool. We'll probably end before that, or thereabouts. All right, well, that's cool. We'll see you later, James, and thanks for that reminder. So they're a real problem, too, and of course, like I said, I went out the other evening. It was about this time. It's still light out. And I put up one of the, what do you call them, the covers to cover the coolant lines, which I haven't installed yet, but I wanted to put the backside in. Conduit covers. I got fucking stung, bit 3 times by them damn old flies. So that's it, I'm done out here. Fuck this. Went in the house and the hell with it, you know. Even though it was decent outside, the temperature was cooling off just enough to where it was tolerable. But then I had to deal with these yellow flies, so I mean, you can't win no matter what, and it really sucks. Well, I asked that question too, Ray. If there's no oxygen, how do the engines work? Because they need a mixture of fuel and oxygen in order to, even though they're external combustion engines, not like a car, but they still need oxygen along with the jet fuel to burn. So there's got to be some oxygen up there. Maybe not enough to breathe on, I don't know. I know I've talked to people that, like, well, my mother-in-law, when she was in New Mexico, that's a high area. And they were in an elevated area, I think, right around, big town that's over there. I can't remember that name now. But she said it was hard to breathe because the oxygen was thinner because of the elevation. Or if you live in Colorado, at the top of the mountain in Colorado, it's very difficult to breathe. And you're thinking, okay, but planes are way up higher past that. So how does that work exactly? See, I have questions, but no good engines, or no good answers, I should say. All right, well that makes sense. It's very thin. Now Andy, he's a pilot, so he should know more about this than probably most of us do. So it's probably not thick enough or concentrated enough for you to actually breathe in, but it may be enough to run an engine on. Now I imagine a jet engine runs pretty lean, which wouldn't require a whole lot of oxygen. But once again, how would you produce enough oxygen off the engine that it didn't require for combustion that you could actually breathe on? It would have to be a multiplier. And I don't really see how that would work. And why would you do that anyway? Once again, I mean, they don't deny it. They're saying that we're pumping dirty oxygen or dirty air into the cabins of the airplane, and some people get very sick. Some have even died from, if they have an allergic reaction to the air, they actually die up there. No wonder I don't want to fucking fly. Andy says a gas turbine pulls in 2 tons of air per minute. Yeah, I don't doubt that. That's a lot of fucking air. And like you said, if the oxygen amount content is very, very minimal on that, probably enough to run the engine, but not really enough for anything else, I would guess. That's true. Turbines run better at higher elevations. Hey, the Gigliottis, Ray, how you doing? Good to see you. How's that 3D printing coming out for you? Got it mastered yet, hopefully? I know you've had a lot of questions about it. Like I said, I did some 3D printing here just the other day. I made these for Joe Rader. They mount on top of an Athearn locomotive motor, and they hold the DCC decoder card on the top of them, so it's basically a holder for the DCC. Pretty slick. He gave me the file, and I went ahead and printed them up. Well, I imagine you're having a lot of fun with it. There's a certain amount of coolness with printing shit. I enjoy it. Except when it fucks up, then I get a little pissed off. But like I said, I tried to do these with the resin printer, and the resin printed ones weren't anywhere near as good as the filament printed ones. So the only difference is I could do 4 at a time on the resin printer, and they were white because I have white resin. I didn't like the way they came out. They said, you know what? I got just enough filament. I ordered more, by the way, but I'm literally out of filament for the most part right now. I have this gold PETG, which sucks. At least it does on my machine anyway. Some other machines it may work fine, but I don't like the way it prints. Got a lot of issues with it. I'll never buy it again. I'll stick with the PLA Plus, but I just ordered 5 spools of gray PLA Plus. I paid $68 for it from eBay, free shipping. I should have it, I think, on the 27th. So that'll keep me in filament for a while, because that's why I usually buy it anyway. For a while I was buying 4 at a time, and I found the 5 at a time. I said, I'm going to do 5, not much more. And 5 spools will last me quite a while, so that's a smart way to do it. And I got a ton of white resin. I bought a case of that. So I think I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I've got 6 1 gram bottles, 1 kilogram bottle of that. So I got plenty of each. Just that I don't really have that much to print these days. Now I printed this with, had some clear filament, and I did this on the filament printer, and it's a phone holder. Pretty cool. It's in 2 pieces. You put them together, and my cell phone sits on it, and it's a great holder for it. Plus you can plug in your charger underneath. It's a hole for it, and there you go. I made 4 of them, 2 for me and 2 for Debbie, and they work really great. So, and I got those off of Thingiverse, believe it or not. I use Tinkercad. It's oneword.com. It's internet based. You'll set up your own account. It's free. You have your own username and password. It stores all the stuff you make, and so you can always go back and re-download it. It's a simple CAD program. If you want to do some really complicated stuff, you probably can't. But basic stuff like it does some curve stuff, but mostly straight lines, triangles, rectangles, squares, circles. You'd have to get onto it. It's really easy to use though, and it's kind of what you see is what you get type interface. So you could say you want to do a square, a cube. You could go over to the right, grab a cube, bring it onto your work plane. You can resize it easily, drag and drop, and you can make it thin or thick or high or low, and you can bring another rectangle in or try. You can actually build things. I've done some pretty complicated stuff with it. Of course, I've been using it for a while, but again, it's free. Check it out, play with it till you figure it out. And it does have some limitations, but for most of the stuff you're probably going to make, it'll be fine. You know, especially if you're doing buildings or structures. I know you're apparently in a flight simulator. Now, I don't know how much you can do for that, but you never know. And I have it. You could take existing things, drag it in. You can import it in. Not everything, but some things. You can import it into Tinkercad and modify it, because I've done that too. You know, I've taken a truck, for example, and I don't have one handy here, but I took a truck, and say it was a dump truck. I took the dump bed off of it and made a flatbed out of it. Or maybe I put a tank on the back. Yeah, I did where I made propane trucks and put a propane tank built into it. Locked it down, exported it into a STL file, brought it into Cura or resin printed, however I want to do it, and printed it out, and it came out fine. So it's really cool that the stuff you can make. A lot of the stuff here is made that I designed on Tinkercad. It's kind of hard to see any of it here, but the train station over here, which you can't see because I'm in the way, right over there, I designed that. This one over here I designed. The overhead rail system I designed on Tinkercad. Each piece. That water tower I designed on Tinkercad. You know, it's in pieces, but you have to assemble it, but I was able to fine tune each piece the way I needed it. So yeah, there's a lot of things you can do, and you can have a lot of fun with it, but keep in mind there is some limitations. Ken says, was the resin old? No, it's brand new. I just bought it like a month ago. I don't see an expiration date on them. Of course, they tell you to shake it good before you use it, which I always do. I just think that it could have been my positioning could have been a problem, because the way these are, there's insets on the back side. I don't know how, wrong camera. Switch cameras here. I don't know how well you can see that. See that the insets in there? And then on the other side you've got also dips. So I thought the smart way would be to stand it up on its edge. And you would get a cleaner cut, but I probably didn't have enough supports, because you don't want to put it on the plate. You want to have it elevated with supports under it. And what had happened is, on this end here, it wasn't quite square. It curled up a little bit. Probably because it didn't have proper supports. But I usually let the program that I use, which is Lychee or Lychee, or however to pronounce it, it does its own supports. Sometimes it's not that's not the best way to do it. To go ahead and override that and put your own supports in. You can never have too many, and the more supports you have, the better your print will come out in most cases. But of course, the one difference between resin print and filament print is, you would be hard pressed to break this. You could drill through it, you could drop it on the floor, hit it with a hammer, it'll be fine. It's very strong. The resin is more brittle. Like I said, resin prints I found is good for, what's the word for it? More, damn, I can't think of the word. Like people and stuff. They're prints that are more, they don't have to be strong. They just have to be detailed. The resin print is perfect for that, you know. But if you want a strong part, you want to use the filament. Now, for example, I've got a wheelchair, but it's not really a wheelchair. It's called a transport chair. It has 4 small wheels on it, so the big one's on a wheelchair. Well, it folds, cloth seat, and it has these plastic. I had an extra one here. I don't think I have it anymore. Deals that plug into the piping and clamp onto the other tube. That it keeps the chair from going too far out. Well, you know, remember, I weigh 222 pounds now. I could sit in it and not break it. If I didn't have strong pieces like that, they would simply snap. So if they're resin printed, they would snap. Where the filament printed ones, because I did them in both, the filament printed ones are rock solid, and they're very hard to break. So when you're putting that kind of weight into something, you want the strength. Now, if I want something to look nice, I use resin. But for good solid stuff, you definitely want filament. That's that. Whittle got the idea of the jet from the Brigitte formula. If you want to go very far and fast, you got to go high where the internal combustion engine won't work. That makes sense. And Tom says, Jim, I came up with a new method of cleaning the build plate. I use a little dish soap and water scrunch sponge, dry off with paper towel, working great. Oh, you mean on the resin printer or on the filament printer? It'd work on either one, I guess. That's a good idea. Because I just use a scraper and then run water over it in a paper towel to dry it on the resin. I don't really have a problem on the filament printer. My work always comes off with no problem. And Ken says resin doesn't hold the screw well unless pre-drilled, or it usually cracks. Better is filament to hold. Yeah, absolutely. As I said, the filament, it's a stronger bond, because it's you know, basically it's a plastic. Where resin is, well, resin's resin, and it's just not very strong. Yeah, it's like fiberglass, you know. Have you ever fell into a Corvette accidentally and snapped the door in half? I did it once, believe it or not. Playing football with a friend, I went to catch the ball, lost my balance. My neighbor had a Corvette. It was an older one. It was a 76 or 77. I fell in the door, shattered the fucking door. And I was only 140 at the time. So, you know, bullshit. You know, I remember as a kid, oh, fiberglass is stronger than steel. Yeah, my ass it is. Yeah. Or if you'd have done that in a metal car, you might have bent the door, depending upon how well it was made, but you damn sure wouldn't shatter it. So, and basically, fiberglass is resin, you know. It's a different bonding agent. It's not anywhere as strong as metal or plastic. Okay, on the filament printers. Yeah, so I don't really have a problem with that. I mean, I got, now, on the old one, the build plate got some scratches on the magnetic plate. I can't get them off no matter what I do. I mean, I could even try the scrunchie, but I don't think it'll work. I mean, I tried everything else. I tried alcohol, steel wool. Doesn't touch it. It's like, you know, because what happened was the print head was too low, and it kind of drug across. It destroyed the print head, of course, the nozzle, but also scratched the plate. I guess that's why they sell replacement build plates, because they do go bad. But that happened on the old one. Like I said, the new one hasn't been a problem. So I don't know. It's like I said, it's all horse shit. There's always one fucking thing after another in it. So yeah, I've got my hands full with a lot of stuff right now. I've got a full plate, so to speak. And, of course, like I said, trains are kind of secondary, unfortunately. But I'll have time to get to it at some point. And, you know, like I said, I'm doing work slowly. Not really in a hurry anyway. I want to think things through. I want to try and get more detail out. I mean, like I said, I'm watching some of the other guys. I mean, Tom Grassi, he does beautiful work. Dave Thurber. Tom Kovichak from Tom's Trains and Things. You guys kick ass, man. I mean, really highly detailed stuff. And really, when you get down to it, at the end of the day, that's what you want. You want the detail. Anybody can slap together shit. It's another thing to make something look so real that you have to look at it twice to make sure it isn't. Yeah. Oh, yeah, by the way. Oh, okay, using the adhesive, yeah, that makes sense. While I'm thinking about it, here, let's bring this up. I did this in two parts because it was so big of a page, I couldn't put the whole page up there and be able to read it. So I broke it in half, so I've got part one and part two. And basically this is this flyer calling all railroad fans. Sparky's Great Canadian Meet and Greet 2025. Come and enjoy a fun-filled weekend of railroad entertainment. Friday starts 4 p.m. with a tour in Salford of the shops for the Ontario Southern Railway. And after a shopping spree at OVR, that's Otter Valley Railroad Hobbies, in Tillsonburg, and to top off the night, back to Sparky's Train Shed. And Saturday at 9 a.m. start in St. Thomas with a tour of the ex-New York City Conrail Museum, train station, and BX Tower. Then on the Waterloo Central Railroad by 2 p.m. for a train ride that starts at 2:15 p.m. for a 1 hour long ride, and upon return we'll get a shop tour at 3:30. And as something special, there will be a dinner train leaving at 5:30 p.m. This is limited to 42 guests, so get your reservations early. Don't miss out. Make your reservation with Sparky for this one, and follow Sparky 107 on YouTube. And then Sunday, meet at 9 a.m. at Mini Print headquarters in Toronto, where we'll Railfan the Canadian via Toronto to Vancouver passenger train at around 10 a.m. At 11 a.m. we'll go to Little Canada, an HO scale layout with many animations featuring HO scale trains and road traffic plus other animated features. After, we will go to the Toronto Railway Museum to see some of the behind the public scenes trains that they are working on. So set a date for August 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, 2025 for Railway Fun, and follow Sparky 107 on YouTube for details and sign up. So now you can read it, and I'll be posting this every week until August. So if anybody needs to see it again, you can always see it every week. And, you know, so anybody interested in going there, this might be a great thing for you. I wish I could go, but there's no way I could get up there. A, I don't have a passport. 2, I don't have the money. And 3, I don't even really have, I'd have to rent a vehicle. I wouldn't want to trash my own car going that far. And I don't fly, so, you know, it would be a big deal for me. Hey, Derek Alexander, how you doing? Good to see you here. Here just in time for me to say goodbye in about 12 minutes. No problem, Floyd. My pleasure, man. Like I said, I want to get the word out there. Anybody wants to go, you should probably plan now and get your reservations in and stuff so that you won't be left behind. Sounds like a ton of fun. Like I said, I wish I could go, but not happening. So you guys got to bring something down closer to me, like Georgia or even Florida. You know, that I'll go to because I'm getting too old for all this travel shit, and I don't have the money for one. And as much as I'd like to meet everybody, and just traveling 1,500 miles is just really not in the cards. So you guys got to organize something closer to home here. Of course, the good news is most of you retire, well, except for Canadians, but most of you people in the States that retire ultimately move down to Florida anyway. So eventually, maybe 20 years from now, although we'll all be probably half dead by then, but we could do more meet and greets here in the South. Because hell, we'll all be down here, right? We'll have to see how that goes. Yeah, you can always watch the replay, no biggie. We talk about a lot of horse shit as always, and some train stuff, but not a whole lot. Hopefully, the more I get done here, the more I'll have to talk about train-wise. Boy, says, how much room have you got in your home? Well, the main house is about... The main house with the guest house is 3,500 square foot. The guest house is only 450 square foot. So you're looking at roughly... Well, it's a little over 3,000, I guess. 3,200, somewhere around there. It's a big house. It's not like a mansion, but it's still pretty good size. I only have 2 bedrooms, though. And, of course, our bedroom, master bedroom, is where we sleep. And the second bedroom is Debbie's hobby room. I gave it to her for that. And, of course, I rent out the guest house to my mother-in-law. Then I have my shed out here, which my shed is... I don't know the square footage. I think it's around 600 square foot. It's actually bigger than the guest house. Yeah, it's 12 foot wide by 32 foot long. That's pretty good size. Now, I think ultimately they included the 2-car garage in that 3,500 square foot plan, because at the time when I bought the house, there was a man cave in the garage. It was about almost all of it. They had a small section for like a tool shed type thing at the front of the garage. Well, I tore that wall down because I wanted to park my car in the garage. I said, I didn't buy a house with a garage to have a fucking man cave. You know, I don't need that. I need a garage. So, technically you don't count the garage as living space when you factor in, square footage. But still, it's still, even without that, it's still, the garage would be what, 2-car garage. That's probably about 600 or 700 square foot, maybe. If you deduct that, you're still looking at, it's well over 3,000 square foot. The main house, no matter how you look at it, the rooms are few, but they're huge. My living room is like the size of most people's regular houses. It seems like. I never figured out the square footage in each room, but they're big rooms. Even the master bedroom is like most people's living rooms. It's huge. So we got lucky. I mean, this house was originally built as a winter retreat. The people that built it lived up in, I think, Michigan or someplace, and they used to come down here during the winters and stay here. And they said it was the only house. Literally, it was like a cabin in the woods. But they went first class on everything. I got a gas stove in there that's a commercial stove. It's like 6 burners on the top, 2 ovens, and a griddle in the middle. It's a $6,000 stove. It's a professional one. Got a big hood over it and all that. I mean, they spared no expense on anything. They had a big French door refrigerator in there. Unfortunately, the previous tenants decided to poke some holes in the coils before they left. And that night we moved in, it failed. It quit running. I said, just get rid of it. And I bought a smaller one because I don't need a 3-door French refrigerator, but it was nice. The thing was huge, So all the appliances in that. It has a trash compactor in the kitchen, which works. We don't use it because the bags are expensive and they take special bags. And the bags are like, 10 of them for like $20. They're like $2 a piece. We generate a lot of trash, unfortunately, and I'm thinking, nah, that thing could sit there and look pretty. We're not going to use it, But now Derek's been here before. He's not new to this, so he's used to the shit we talk about. I have bags of chicken coop. Well, Deb just bought 4 chickens. She got their silkies. The babies, they're like this. They're tiny. They look like little rodents, sort of. And they only get about maybe this big. They're not really large chickens, but they do produce eggs. Hopefully, I mean, unless we got stuck with 4 males, then we're fucked. But hopefully there's at least 2 or 3 females in the bunch. Hopefully all 4 are. Because I don't really want a rooster, but... So she's doing that again. But I told her she could only have 4. Because we had like 40 before, and that was just too damn many of them. And they're expensive to feed and difficult to take care of. And I said, 4 is, they're small. I want to get a metal shed for them. And maybe like maybe a 4x6 shed. They're cheap. And get rid of these wooden coops because they're a pain in the ass too. And they're just really not. They're not sturdy. I mean, not. Predators can get into them if they really want to. I think a predator would have a tougher time getting into a metal shed, or even a plastic shed for that matter, than they would the wooden ones. So we'll see what happens down the road. But that's what I'd like to do, is just get a metal shed, maybe put some vents in there, maybe a window or 2, and at night they can stay in there, and then during the day she can let them, free range. Because during the day they're really pretty safe, so we'll see. Yeah, I'll bet you do. I do that a lot too, unfortunately, don't I? It's getting close to 8 o'clock, and we're going to wrap up at 8, so... I wondered about that myself. It probably was, maybe. I don't know. There's a lot of things here that are... I found out just recently that my property is zoned for agricultural, which is actually a great thing. That lowered the taxes. And I could basically get away with a lot of shit on here because basically I can have livestock if I want. Um, Generally, most of the time, you know, apparently the people that owned this before that built it, they had the property zoned agricultural, probably to keep the taxes down. Because right before '08, this house was worth $650,000, which is phenomenal because I bought it for $172. You know, 5 years, almost 6 years ago, and right now I think it's worth about 235, something like that, 237. But in reality, it's not. I mean, I don't think I can get that much if I sold it. But so when are you breaking ground on the extension? Well, like I said, Ken, what I'm going to do with that is we're gonna have to go a little over 8 o'clock. That's okay though. I'm going to buy a metal shed, a 4x6. They're $189 from Amazon. I'll build the floor off of this shed because they don't have floors in them. Put the metal shed, bolt it to this shed, and of course the door will be outside to get into it to work on the helix, and that's what's going to house the helix. Then I'm going to put a second one that's 8 foot by 10 foot that'll come off of this back area here. I'll have a doorway through, and that's going to be my extension for moving the printers and some other stuff into that room. So I'll have more room in here. So, and that was the cheapest way to go, and I think that was the 8x10, I think was $390, something like that. Very inexpensive. I couldn't build a wooden facsimile for less than probably $1,500 to $2,000. And the problem is I'm not in good enough physical shape to where I can do the entire building. I could do the walls and the floor. I can't do the roof because I can't really climb a ladder anymore. So I figured it'd be a lot easier just to build a metal shed. You know, me and the wife could literally carry it. They're light. Throw it on top of the floor base, bolt it to the floor, bolt it to this building. You know, and I'm only going to have a couple of small holes like this for the track to go through for the upper level and lower level, and the main helix will be out in the covered shed. And of course, they're waterproof, so I think it'll be fine. So that's my plan. When is that going to happen? Probably right after hurricane season. Probably around, November, December of this year. Could happen sooner, but not likely. There says the only thing bad about a replay is I can't get involved in the banter. That's true. Well, you got to come in earlier because that's when all the fun starts. Andy says I'm cool with the cluckers. Yeah, there you go. 30 guys produce a lot of CO2 and methane. Yeah, definitely methane. Serve beans. There you go. Just kidding you, Jim. Plumbed in for gas. Alright, have a good one, Floyd. Thanks for popping in. I'm going to wrap up, too. I actually got through that pretty quick. I thought it would take longer. So, yeah, that's the plan. It's cheaper to do it that way. And it's more feasible for me financially to do it that way and easier. Like I said, I could build a metal shed no problem by myself if I had to. I'll have the wife to help me, or I can even get my next door neighbor to help me too if I need it, I couldn't install the head unit in the master bedroom for that mini split AC. So he came over and helped me hang it because it was kind of heavy and it was over my head, and that was, like I said, I don't do well on ladders. So he helped me hang it, and that was cool. Me and the wife did the one in the bedroom because it's a little smaller and lighter and lower. So we did that one, but now the 18,000, I'll have to get him to help me with that because there ain't no fucking way I'm going to be able to hang that son of a bitch 8 foot in the air. So, it is what it is, but like I said, there are some limitations of what I can get away with. Anyway, guys, I'm going to let y'all go now, and You can catch Mark on his show. It started a minute ago, 2 minutes ago. So he's out there shooting shit. I don't know if you can hear it or not. Wonder what the hell they're shooting at this late in the night. Hard telling. There's a lot of wildlife out here, so hunting is kind of normal. They'll shoot deer, they'll shoot hog, turkeys. I don't know if there's any bears. I haven't seen a bear in 2 years, so who knows? I think they killed the last one. That's a good thing. All right, guys. Yeah, well, that's true, Derek, and I will put probably rubber or foam in between it. One of the problems I had, the 4x6 will butt right up against the my building without any problems because the roof doesn't overhang on that, and they're lean-to type buildings, so the roofs are gonna angle out. You know, they'll be high up toward the building and lower away from the building. Both of them are set up that way, but the 8x10 has an overhang of about that much all the way around on the roof. So I'm going to have to put a 2x4 buffer between the building and the shed. And they'll be both, like I said, they'll both be sealed. But that's the only way it could be done. Unless I start cutting up the roof, and I didn't want to fuck with that, so. But I got it figured out, no problem. So anyway, guys, we're going to see y'all. Have a good one. I'm putting on the outro now. Don't forget to flip off the signal guy. He's still there, what, almost 5 years now? I wonder if he set up a tent out there or something. I mean, he practically lives out there. Anyway, we'll see you next week. Have a good weekend, everybody, and thanks for popping in.